Welcome, dear friend, to this sacred space of stillness. Tonight, you found your way to the timeless wisdom of Zen Buddhism legends, stories that have whispered peace to countless souls across centuries. As darkness embraces the world around you, let these ancient tales become your gentle companion toward restful slumber. Each legend we'll share carries within it the power to quiet the restless mind and soothe the weary spirit. Have you ever wondered about the mysterious smile of Buddha as he held a single flower, or pondered the sound that one hand makes when clapping? These aren't just riddles. They are doorways to inner peace keys that unlock the tranquil chambers of your heart. Before we begin our journey through these sacred stories, take a moment to settle into comfort. Feel your breath naturally deepening, your shoulders gently releasing, your mind beginning to drift like autumn leaves on a calm pond. Tonight, let go of the day's concerns. Allow these Zen legends to carry you into the realm of pure serenity, where wisdom meets rest and peace becomes your pillow. If these ancient stories of peace resonate with your soul, gently tap that like button and let others discover this sanctuary of serenity too. Now let us step together into the first of these beautiful tales. Welcome, dear friend, to this sacred space of stillness. Tonight, you have found your way to the timeless wisdom of Zen Buddhism legends, stories that have whispered peace to countless souls across centuries. In this moment, as the world around you settles into the gentle embrace of night, you are about to embark on a journey that transcends time and touches the very essence of tranquility. As darkness embraces the world around you, let these ancient tales become your gentle companion toward restful slumber. Each legend we will share carries within it the power to quiet the restless mind and soothe the weary spirit. These are not merely stories told for entertainment. They are profound teachings wrapped in the silk of narrative, designed to guide you toward inner peace and prepare your consciousness for the deepest, most restorative sleep. Have you ever wondered about the mysterious smile of Buddha as he held a single flower, or pondered the sound that one hand makes when clapping? These are not just riddles. They are doorways to inner peace keys that unlock the tranquil chambers of your heart. Each question, each story, each gentle lesson we explore tonight has been carefully preserved through generations of wise teachers who understood that the path to enlightenment often begins with the simple act of listening with an open heart. Before we begin our journey through these sacred stories, take a moment to settle into comfort. Feel your breath naturally deepening, your shoulders gently releasing, your mind beginning to drift like autumn leaves on a calm pond. Allow your body to sink deeper into whatever surface supports you, knowing that you are safe, you are held, and you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. Tonight, let go of the day's concerns. Release the weight of tomorrow's uncertainties. Allow these Zen legends to carry you into the realm of pure serenity, where wisdom meets rest and peace becomes your pillow. In this sacred space we create together, there is no rush, no urgency, only the gentle flow of ancient wisdom washing over your spirit like warm, healing water. In the quiet corners of ancient temples, where the air is thick with the scent of sandalwood incense and the soft golden glow of paper lanterns dances against weathered wooden walls, the stories of Zen Buddhism have been passed down through generations. These stories are not merely tales. They are living teachings wrapped in the fabric of myth and metaphor, designed to awaken the spirit while simultaneously calming the restless mind that so often keeps us from peaceful sleep. The monastery gardens where these stories were first shared were places of extraordinary beauty, carefully tended spaces where every stone, every carefully raked line in the sand, every precisely placed flower spoke to the harmony between human consciousness and the natural world. Imagine yourself walking through such a garden now, your feet following ancient pathways worn smooth by countless seekers before you, each step bringing you closer to the profound stillness that lies at the heart of all existence. The first story we encounter is that of the flower sermon, a moment so profound that it transcends the limitations of ordinary language and speaks directly to the essence of who you are. It is said that the Buddha, in a gesture of perfect simplicity, held up a single flower before his gathered disciples. The crowd looked on in expectant silence, waiting for words of wisdom, waiting for explanations and teachings. But the Buddha simply held the flower his eyes, reflecting the infinite compassion that had awakened within him. While many disciples looked on in growing confusion, on searching their minds for the meaning of this silent demonstration, one disciple, Mahakasyapa, smiled knowingly. This smile was not just a reaction, but a recognition of a truth beyond language, a truth that speaks directly to the heart without need for words or explanations. In that moment of perfect understanding, the first transmission of Zen wisdom occurred, not through lectures or lengthy discourses, but through the simple sharing of presence and awareness. This story invites us to embrace the power of silence and the wisdom that lies beyond the constant chatter of our thinking minds. In our noisy, busy world filled with endless information and constant stimulation, it reminds us that sometimes the deepest understanding comes not from analyzing or speaking, but from simply being fully present in the moment, open and receptive to the profound truths that surround us always. As you listen to these words, imagine yourself sitting in that ancient gathering, the sacred flower held gently in the Buddha's weathered hands, the silence enveloping you like the softest silk blanket. Feel the stillness within your own heart, the quiet that speaks more eloquently than volumes of words. Notice how, in this moment of imagined presence with the Buddha and his disciples, your own breathing naturally slows and deepens, your body relaxes more completely, and a sense of timeless peace begins to permeate your being. Next, we turn to the enigmatic question that has puzzled and enlightened seekers for over 1,000 years, the sound of one hand clapping. This koan, a riddle used in Zen practice, challenges our conventional thinking in ways that initially seem impossible. How can one hand make a sound? What could this paradoxical question possibly mean? The question is not meant to be answered through logical analysis, but rather to push the mind beyond its usual boundaries of dualistic thinking to open a space where profound insight can suddenly arise, like dawn breaking over a mountain peak. Reflect on this ancient riddle as you breathe deeply and slowly. Let the question linger in your consciousness without straining for an answer, without trying to solve it like a puzzle. In this space of open wondering, free from the need to immediately understand or categorize, you may find yourself touching the edge of the profound peace that Zen teachings offer to those who approach them with patient, receptive hearts. The story of Master Ikkyu and the broken cup teaches us about the Buddhist concept of impermanence and the deep acceptance that brings lasting peace. Ikkyu, a revered Zen master, known for his unconventional wisdom and profound compassion, once demonstrated this teaching to his disciples using a simple ceramic teacup that had been treasured in the monastery for many years. He showed them the cup in its perfect intact state, then deliberately allowed it to fall and shatter on the stone floor of the meditation hall. As his disciples gasped in shock at the destruction of such a beloved object, Ikkyu smiled gently and explained that clinging to things as they are trying to keep them permanent and unchanging inevitably leads to suffering. The cup, once whole and beautiful, was now broken into countless pieces, yet its essential nature, its capacity to teach and inspire, continued in a new form. By accepting the broken cup completely without trying to deny the reality of its brokenness or grieve endlessly for its former wholeness, we learn to flow gracefully with the constant changes that characterize all existence. This profound lesson encourages us to let go of our attachments to having things remain exactly as they are, and to find peace in the ever-changing flow of life itself. As you absorb this teaching, imagine holding that precious cup in your own hands, feeling its smooth surface and gentle weight, then watching with equanimity as it transforms into something entirely different yet equally meaningful. Feel how this acceptance of see, hang, and impermanence creates space in your heart for a deeper, more sustainable peace. Finally, we come to the essential practice of Zazen, or seated meditation, which forms the foundation of Zen training and offers a doorway into the present moment that is always available to us. A devoted student once approached his master with earnest questions about enlightenment during meditation. When would he achieve the profound awakening he sought? How would he know when his practice had borne fruit? The master's response was beautifully simple, yet infinitely profound. Enlightenment is found not in some future achievement, but in the very act of sitting itself in being fully present in this moment, completely aware and awake to what is. As you prepare to rest tonight, consider this revolutionary teaching that suggests the peace you seek is not somewhere distant or difficult to attain, but available right here, right now. Your breath flowing naturally in and out your body, supported and relaxed, your mind settling into stillness. All of these are expressions of the awakened presence that the ancient masters pointed toward with their stories and teachings. If these ancient stories of peace resonate with your soul, gently tap that like button and let others discover this sanctuary of serenity too. Let these stories and teachings wash over you now, like a gentle mountain stream carrying away the accumulated tension and worry of your day. Allow yourself to sink deeper into relaxation with each breath, knowing that you are supported not only by whatever physical surface holds your body, but by the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of awakened beings who have walked this path of peace before you. May your night be filled with serene dreams and your heart with quiet joy. Sleep well, dear friend, in the sacred embrace of Zen tranquility, knowing that tomorrow you will awaken refreshed and renewed, carrying within you the timeless peace of these ancient teachings. In the vast tapestry of Zen Buddhism legends, few moments shine as brilliantly and mysteriously as the flower sermon, a story that has whispered its profound teachings across centuries, touching the hearts of countless seekers who yearn for peace beyond understanding. This legendary event, said to have taken place during the lifetime of the Buddha himself, encapsulates the very essence of Zen, teaching the transmission of wisdom beyond words through the sacred language of silence and pure presence. Picture, if you will, a magnificent gathering on the slopes of Vulture Peak, where the golden light of early morning filters through ancient trees, casting dancing shadows upon the earth below. The air is crisper and clean, filled with the gentle fragrance of mountain flowers and the soft whisper of wind through leaves. Here, in this natural amphitheater of stone and verdant growth, the Buddha has called together his most devoted disciples for what they anticipate will be another profound discourse on the nature of reality and the path to liberation from suffering. The assembled monks arrange themselves in concentric circles around their beloved teacher, their saffron robes creating pools of warm color against the weathered gray rocks. Each face reflects eager anticipation, minds prepared to receive complex teachings about the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, or perhaps new insights into the nature of impermanence and interdependence. The disciples carry with them notebooks made of palm leaves, ready to transcribe every precious word that might fall from the Buddha's lips. But on this particular morning, something extraordinary and unexpected unfolds. As the Buddha takes his customary position before the gathering, instead of beginning with the familiar phrases that usually open his teachings, he reaches down and plucks a single flower from the earth beside him. The flower, some say it was a lotus, others a simple wildflower of the mountainside, rests delicately between his with-arid fingers, its petals still adorned with dewdrops that catch and scatter the morning light like tiny diamonds. The Buddha holds this flower aloft, his eyes moving slowly across the faces of his disciples, and then silence. Complete, profound silence that seems to fill the entire universe. The wind itself seems to pause in respect. The birds cease their morning songs, and even the distant sound of flowing water grows hushed. The disciples wait their breathing shallow with anticipation, expecting explanation to follow, waiting for the words that will unlock the mystery of this simple gesture. Minutes pass. The flower remains elevated, turning slowly in the Buddha's gentle grip, revealing every facet of its simple perfection. The petals, soft and delicate, seem to pulse with life. The stem, strong yet flexible, speaks of resilience and grace. The very essence of the flower, its color, its fragrance, its temporary yet perfect existence, becomes the entire teaching, though most of the assembled disciples cannot yet comprehend this revolutionary pedagogical approach. Among the crowd of eager listeners, one figure responds differently to this wordless demonstration. Mahakasyapa, known among the disciples for his profound contemplative nature and his ability to perceive truth beyond conventional understanding, begins to smile. This is not the polite smile of social courtesy, nor the forced expression of someone trying to appear wise when confused. Instead, it is the spontaneous flowering of recognition, the outer manifestation of an inner awakening that transcends all need for verbal explanation. This smile spreads slowly across Mahakasyapa's weathered face, like sunrise spreading across a mountain peak, illuminating features that have been softened by years of meditation and service. His eyes, deep and calm as mountain pools, reflect a knowing that cannot be captured in books or preserved in scholarly treatises. In this moment of perfect understanding, the first direct transmission of Zen wisdom occurs, not through lengthy discourses or complex philosophical arguments, but through the simple sharing of presence and the recognition of truth that exists beyond the realm of language. The Buddha's own face transforms as he witnesses Mahakassyapa's smile, his expression reflecting the joy of a teacher who has successfully conveyed the most precious lesson without speaking a single word. With the slightest nod of acknowledgement, the Buddha confirms that transmission has occurred, that the wordless wisdom has been received by a worthy vessel. This exchange, lasting perhaps only moments in chronological time, represents an eternal truth about the nature of understanding and the limitations of conventional communication. This moment becomes enshrined in Zen tradition as the first instance of mind-to-mind transmission, the passing of wisdom from teacher to student without reliance on scriptures, verbal explanations, or intellectual analysis. The flower becomes a symbol of this direct pointing to the human heart, this immediate recognition of Buddha nature that exists within all beings, waiting only to be acknowledged and awakened. As you contemplate this beautiful story from the comfort of your resting place, allow yourself to feel the profound stillness that surrounded that ancient gathering. Imagine the weight of that silence not as emptiness, but as fullness beyond measure, pregnant with all the wisdom that words could never contain. Feel how the Buddha's simple gesture cuts through the complexity of philosophical discourse and points directly to the heart of truth. Consider how often in our modern lives we become trapped in the endless cycle of seeking explanations, demanding rational understanding for every mystery we encounter. The flower sermon invites us to step beyond this compulsive need to analyze and categorize, to trust in the wisdom of direct experience and the knowing that arises from simply being present with what is. The flower in the Buddha's hand speaks to the exquisite beauty of impermanence. Its delicate petals will soon wither and fall, its vibrant colors will fade, and its physical form will return to the earth from which it arose. Yet, in holding it up in that moment of perfect presence, the Buddha reveals that this very impermanence is not something to fear or resist, but rather the source of all beauty and preciousness in existence. Reflect now on moments in your own life when words seemed inadequate to capture the fullness of an experience. Perhaps it was the sight of a sunset that took your breath away, the feeling of holding a newborn child, or a moment of deep connection with another person that transcended all need for conversation. These experiences echo the wisdom of the flower sermon, reminding us that some truths can only be lived, never fully explained. The smile of Mahakassyapa represents the awakening that is possible for each of us when we learn to receive life directly without the mediating filter of constant mental commentary. This smile is not dependent on understanding complex teachings or mastering difficult practices. It arises naturally when we open ourselves completely to the present moment, allowing reality to reveal itself without our interference or manipulation. In your own journey toward inner peace and restful sleep, consider how you might cultivate this quality of receptive presence that Mahakassyapa demonstrated. Perhaps it begins with simple practices, watching clouds drift across the sky without naming their shapes, listening to rain fall without thinking about what it means, or feeling your breath flow in and out without trying to control its rhythm. The Buddha's flower continues to bloom in the hearts of all who hear this story, its silent teaching rippling across centuries to reach you here in this moment. As you prepare to release the day and welcome sleep, imagine that flower resting gently in your own hands. Feel its weight, slight, but somehow significant. Notice its texture soft, yet vibrant with life. Allow its simple perfection to fill your awareness, pushing aside all other concerns and bringing you into complete presence with this single beautiful moment. This story teaches us that enlightenment is not something complex or distant, but as immediate and accessible as a flower held up to the light. The transmission of peace from the Buddha to Mahakashyapa continues in this very moment as you receive this teaching, as you allow silence to speak more eloquently than any words ever could. Let the flower sermon guide you now into the sacred silence of sleep, where dreams bloom like flowers in the garden of consciousness, and where the deepest wisdom reveals itself not through thinking, but through simply being. May your rest be as peaceful as that ancient mountain gathering, and may you awaken with the smile of recognition that connects you to all awakened beings across time. Sleep now in the embrace of this timeless wisdom, knowing that the flower of enlightenment blooms eternally in the silence of your own awakened heart. In the sacred halls of ancient Zen temples, where wisdom flows like mountain streams through generations of seeking hearts, there exists a riddle so profound that it has captivated and transformed countless souls across more than 1,000 years. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of evening's tranquility, let us explore together one of the most famous and enigmatic teachings in all of Zen Buddhism, the mystical sound of one hand clapping. This is not merely an intellectual puzzle to be solved through clever reasoning, but rather a doorway into the very heart of existence itself, a key that unlocks chambers of understanding that lie far beyond the reach of ordinary thinking. As you breathe deeply and allow your body to sink more completely into rest, imagine yourself transported to the serene atmosphere of Kenninji Temple, where this legendary teaching first bloomed like a lotus in the morning mist. The master of Kenninji Temple was Mokurai, whose name means silent thunder, a title that perfectly captured the paradoxical nature of his teaching style, which could shake the foundations of a student's understanding through the power of profound silence. Under his guidance, the temple had become renowned as a place where the deepest mysteries of Zen were not merely discussed, but directly experienced, where students learned to touch the ineffable truth that exists beyond all words and concepts. In this sacred space lived a remarkable child named Toyo, only 12 years old, yet possessed of a spiritual hunger that burned as brightly as any adult seeker's flame. Day after day, young Toyo would observe the older disciples as they made their way to Master Mokurai's private chamber each morning and evening to receive sanzen, the personal guidance that forms the heart of authentic Zen training. The boy's eyes would follow these serious practitioners with a longing that spoke of depths far beyond his chronological age. The yearning in Toyo's heart grew stronger with each passing day until finally he could contain it no longer. Approaching his master with the respectful determination that would characterize his entire spiritual journey, the young boy made his earnest request, "Master, I too wish to receive sanzen. Please allow me to join the other students in seeking the deepest teachings." Mokurai looked down at the small figure before him, seeing not just a child, but a soul ready to embark upon the most profound journey any human being can undertake. Initially, the master's response was gentle but firm. "Wait a while, you are too young." But Toyo's persistence, fueled by authentic spiritual yearning rather than mere curiosity, eventually moved the compassionate teacher's heart. Very well. Mokurai finally consented, recognizing that readiness for Zen training is measured not in years, but in the depth of one's sincere desire for truth. That evening, as the temple bells announced the arrival of the Sanzen hour, little Toyo prepared himself with the same careful attention to ritual and respect that he had observed in the older students. He approached the threshold of Mokurai's chamber with steps measured by reverence, his small hands steady as he struck the gong to announce his presence. The sound echoed through the quiet corridors, carrying with it all the hope and determination of a young heart seeking ultimate understanding. Following the traditional protocol with perfect precision, Toyo bowed respectfully 3 times outside the door before entering the master's presence. The chamber itself was a sanctuary of simplicity. Tatami mats covering the floor, a single scroll painting hanging on the wall, and the soft glow of oil lamps creating pools of golden warmth in the gathering darkness. Here, in this space, dedicated to the transmission of wisdom beyond words, the young seeker took his place before Master Mokurai in respectful silence. The master's voice, when it came, carried the weight of centuries of Zen tradition. You can hear the sound of 2 hands when they clap together. Now, show me the sound of 1 hand. These seemingly simple words contained within them a challenge that would transform not only Toyo's understanding, but potentially awaken him to the deepest truths of existence itself. At first glance, this request appears impossible, even absurd. Logic tells us that clapping requires 2 surfaces. Meeting that sound must have a cause that 1 hand alone cannot produce the crisp report we associate with applause. Yet, Master Mokurai was not asking for a logical solution to a practical problem. He was pointing towards something far more profound. A reality that exists beyond the dualistic thinking that normally governs our understanding of the world. The koan of 1 hand clapping invites us to step beyond the boundaries of cause and effect, thinking that dominates our ordinary consciousness. In our daily lives, everything seems to require duality, subject and object, cause and effect, self and other. But the Zen masters understood that this dualistic perception, while useful for navigating practical affairs, actually obscures a deeper unity that underlies all apparent separations. When Master Mokurai challenged young Toyo to discover the sound of 1 hand clapping, he was essentially asking, can you find that which exists without cause? Can you touch the reality that is complete in itself, needing nothing else to validate its existence? This is the invitation to discover what Zen practitioners call the uncaused sound, the silent music that plays eternally in the depths of pure awareness. As you contemplate this mysterious teaching from the comfort of your resting place, allow yourself to feel the profound stillness that surrounds this ancient question. Notice how your mind might initially struggle to solve the riddle through logical analysis, perhaps imagining various ways that 1 hand might create sound. This very struggle is part of the koan's wisdom. It reveals how habitually we rely on conceptual thinking to navigate reality. The traditional answer to this koan, passed down through generations of Zen teachers, is beautifully simple in its directness. When a student has truly understood the teaching they face, their master assume correct posture and silently extend 1 hand forward, not attempting to create sound, not explaining the paradox, but simply embodying the reality of 1 hand in complete presence and acceptance. This gesture represents far more than a clever solution to a puzzle. It symbolizes the student's willingness to accept reality as it is without the need to force it into the familiar categories of dualistic thought. The intellect becomes tranquil, no longer struggling to understand everything through analysis and explanation. In this state of peaceful acceptance, wisdom reveals itself not through thinking, but through direct experience. The profound beauty of this teaching lies in its invitation to experience unity consciousness. The recognition that the apparent duality between clapper and clapped, between self and world, between seeker and sought, is ultimately an illusion. As one contemporary teacher explains, when the practitioner becomes fully absorbed in contemplating the koan, they eventually realize that they themselves are both the question and the answer, both the seeking and what is sought. In this moment of recognition, two hands have become one. Consider how this ancient wisdom applies to your own journey toward inner peace and restful sleep. How often do we find ourselves caught in the endless cycle of dualistic thinking, worrying about tomorrow while regretting yesterday, feeling separate from the peace we seek, believing that happiness depends on external circumstances aligning in just the right way? The sound of one hand clapping points us toward a different possibility. The recognition that peace is not something we must create or achieve, but rather our natural state when the artificial divisions created by thinking dissolve. As you breathe slowly and deeply, imagine yourself as young Toyo, sitting in that candlelit chamber receiving this profound challenge from Master Mokurai. Feel the weight of the question settling into your consciousness, not as a problem to be solved, but as an invitation to step beyond the limitations of ordinary thinking. Notice how, as you stop trying to figure out the answer intellectually, a different kind of knowing begins to emerge. A knowing that exists prior to all questions and answers. The sound of one hand clapping is happening right now in this very moment as you rest in the silence between thoughts. It is the sound of pure awareness, recognizing itself, the soundless sound of consciousness being conscious. It requires no external validation, no second hand to complete it, no explanation to justify its existence. Like the beating of your heart or the flowing of your breath, it simply is, complete, perfect, and eternally present. This teaching reminds us that enlightenment is not something exotic or distant, but as immediate and accessible as the awareness in which these very words are appearing. The great Zen master, Joshu, pointed to this same truth when he taught that your ordinary mind is the universe. The peace you seek is not hidden in some special state or experience, but is the very ground of your being, always present, needing only to be recognized. As the koan of one hand clapping continues to work its mysterious alchemy in your consciousness, allow it to dissolve the artificial boundaries between questioner and question, between the one who seeks sleep and sleep itself. Rest in the recognition that you are already whole, already complete, already at peace. Not because of any achievement or understanding, but simply because this is your essential nature. Let this ancient teaching be your gentle companion as you drift toward sleep, knowing that the sound of one hand clapping continues to resonate in the depths of your being, a silent symphony that needs no audience, no explanation, no second hand to make it complete. In this recognition, may you find the deepest rest, the most profound peace, and the sweetest dreams. Sleep well, dear friend, in the embrace of this timeless wisdom, knowing that you are both the question and the answer, both the seeker and the sought, both the one hand and its perfect eternal sound. In the luminous garden of Zen wisdom, where every story blooms with the fragrance of eternal truth, there exists a tale so profound that it has transformed countless hearts across the centuries. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of twilight's peace, let us journey together into the timeless teaching of Master Ikkyu and the Broken Cup, a story that reveals the sacred art of letting go and the profound liberation that comes from embracing life's ever-changing nature. Master Ikkyu was unlike any other Zen teacher of his time. Born in 15th century Japan, he moved through the world with the freedom of wind through bamboo groves, teaching not through rigid formality, but through the spontaneous poetry of everyday moments. His unconventional wisdom flowed like mountain streams, finding its way into the most unlikely places, touching hearts that had been closed to traditional religious instruction. Students from far and wide sought his guidance, drawn not only by his profound understanding, but by his ability to illuminate the deepest truths through the simplest of human experiences. On this particular autumn evening, as golden leaves danced outside the monastery windows and the air carried the subtle fragrance of chrysanthemums, Master Ikkyu sat in contemplative silence with a small gathering of devoted students. The setting was intimate and warm, soft cushions arranged in a circle on tatami mats, the gentle glow of oil lamps creating pools of amber light, and the distant sound of temple bells marking the transition from day to night. In the center of this sacred circle rested a simple tea tray upon which sat Master Ikkyu's most treasured possession, a delicate ceramic teacup of extraordinary beauty and personal significance. This cup was no ordinary vessel. Crafted by a master potter generations earlier, it bore the subtle marks of countless tea ceremonies. Its glaze worn smooth by gentle handling, its rim shaped by the touch of countless lips, seeking both refreshment and spiritual nourishment. For Master Ikkyu, this cup represented far more than a mere drinking vessel. It was a companion that had witnessed thousands of moments of contemplation, a silent participant in countless conversations about the nature of existence, and a tangible link to the unbroken chain of teachers and students who had passed wisdom from heart to heart across the generations. The students gathered around their beloved teacher had come to expect the unexpected from their interactions with Ikkyu. His teachings often emerged through actions that initially seemed puzzling or even shocking, yet always revealed deeper layers of meaning upon reflection. Tonight, however, the atmosphere felt particularly charged with anticipation, as if the very air itself was pregnant with imminent revelation. As Master Ikkyu began the evening's tea ceremony, his movements carried the grace of decades of practice. Each gesture precise yet natural, each moment filled with complete presence and attention. He lifted the treasured cup with both hands, cradling it gently as he poured the steaming tea, its aromatic steam rising like incense into the quiet air. The students watched in appreciative silence, recognizing this ritual as both a practical act of hospitality and a meditation on the sacred nature of simple everyday activities. But then, in a moment that would forever alter their understanding of attachment and loss, the unthinkable happened. As Master Ikkyu raised the QP to his lips for the first sip, his fingers seemed to relax their grip. The precious vessel slipped from his hands and fell toward the wooden floor, with what felt like eternal slowness to the horrified students watching. The sound of ceramic meeting wood echoed through the chamber like thunder, sharp, final, irreversible. The beautiful cup lay shattered into countless fragments, its perfect form now transformed into an abstract pattern of broken pieces scattered across the polished floor. Steam continued to rise from the spilled tea, creating ghostly wisps that seemed to carry away not just the warmth of the beverage, but the very essence of what had been whole just moments before. The silence that followed was profound and loaded with emotional weight. Shock, grief, and confusion radiating from the students like ripples from a stone thrown into still water. What happened next would become legendary in the annals of Zen teaching. Instead of expressing dismay or sorrow at the loss of highest treasured possession, Master Ikkyu's face blossomed into a radiant smile. Not the forced expression of someone trying to hide disappointment, but the genuine joy of someone who had just witnessed a perfect demonstration of life's most fundamental truth. His eyes sparkled with the delight of a teacher whose lesson had manifested spontaneously, without need for words or elaborate explanation. "My dear students," Ikkyu spoke softly, his voice carrying the warmth of compassion mixed with the clarity of profound understanding. "This cup has just offered us the most precious teaching possible. For years it served faithfully, bringing beauty and functionality to our tea ceremonies. Now, in its breaking, it reveals the ultimate truth, that all forms are temporary, all conditions are subject to change, and that attachment to permanence is the root of all suffering." The master gestured gently toward the scattered fragments, each shard catching and reflecting the lamplight like tiny mirrors. "Look closely at these pieces. Are they less precious now than they were when unified in the form we called cup? The material remains the same. Only our concept of what constitutes wholeness has been challenged. The cup has simply transformed from one state to another, as all things must do according to the natural law of impermanence." As the students absorbed this teaching, their initial shock began to transform into wonder. They began to see that their distress had not truly been about the loss of a material object, but about their attachment to maintaining things exactly as they were. The broken cup became a mirror reflecting their own resistance to change, their own clinging to permanence in a universe characterized by constant flux. Master Ikkyu continued his teaching with the gentle patience of someone who understood that profound truths require time to penetrate deeply into consciousness. When we truly accept impermanence, not just intellectually but in the depths of our being, we discover a profound freedom. We no longer waste precious energy trying to freeze moments in time or preserve conditions that are naturally designed to evolve and transform. Instead, we learn to dance with change, to find joy in each moment's unique beauty, while holding it lightly enough to let it go when its time has passed. This teaching of impermanence, known in Buddhism as anicca, represents one of the three fundamental characteristics of existence, along with suffering and the absence of permanent self. But as Master Ikkyu demonstrated through his response to the broken cup, recognizing impermanence is not meant to lead to despair or nihilism. Rather, it opens the door to a deeper appreciation of life's preciousness, precisely because of its transitory nature. Consider how this ancient wisdom applies to your own journey through life. How much mental and emotional energy do you spend trying to preserve conditions that are naturally flowing toward change? How often do you find yourself mourning the past or anxiously grasping for security in an uncertain future? The broken cup teaches us that peace comes not from successfully controlling the uncontrollable, but from developing the grace to flow harmoniously with life's constant transformations. As you rest in the comfort of this moment, imagine yourself sitting in that candle-lit chamber with Master Ikkyu, witnessing the cup's transformation from whole to broken. Feel the initial shock giving way to deeper understanding as you recognize that nothing essential has been lost. Only the form has changed. The tea still carries its warmth and flavor, the evening still holds its beauty, and the opportunity for communion with wisdom remains undiminished. The practice of letting go, demonstrated so powerfully by Master Ikkyu's response to his broken cup, extends far beyond material possessions. It encompasses our attachments to particular outcomes, to fixed identities, to old grievances, and to the comfortable, familiar patterns that keep us feeling safe but limit our growth. Each time we practice releasing our grip on how we think things should be, we create space for discovering how they actually are, and often find beauty and possibility we never could have imagined. In the Buddhist understanding, this letting go is not a loss but a gain. The gaining of freedom from the exhausting work of trying to control life, the gaining of presence in each unfolding moment, and the gaining of compassion for ourselves and others as we recognize our shared participation in the universal dance of impermanence. When we stop fighting the flowing nature of existence, we discover that we are not separate from this flow, but are integral expressions of it. As Master Ikkyu's teaching continues to resonate through your consciousness, allow it to work its gentle alchemy on any areas of your life where you might be holding too tightly. Perhaps there are relationships that have evolved beyond their original form, dreams that need to transform into new possibilities, or aspects of your identity that are ready to shed like old clothing that no longer fits. The broken cup reminds us that these endings are not failures, but natural transitions that create space for new beginnings. The fragments of Ikkyu's cup were eventually swept up and returned to the earth, completing the cycle that had begun when clay was first shaped by the potter's hands. But the teaching embodied in that moment of breaking continues to live and spread, touching new hearts with each retelling like seeds carried on the wind to take root in fertile ground. This is the nature of true wisdom. It transcends the particular forms through which it manifests and continues to offer its gifts long after those forms have passed away. Tonight, as you prepare to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you the profound peace that comes from embracing impermanence rather than resisting it. Let go of the day's concerns with the same grace that Master Ikkyu released his attachment to the cup. Allow your thoughts to settle and dissolve like steam rising from spilled tea, leaving behind only the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. In your dreams, may you discover the freedom that comes from holding life lightly, loving deeply while letting go gracefully, appreciating beauty while accepting change, and finding in each moment's impermanence not a cause for sorrow, but a doorway to wonder. Sleep well in the wisdom of the broken cup, knowing that what is truly essential in you can never be broken, only transformed into ever new expressions of the timeless peace that is your deepest nature. In the sacred silence of ancient monasteries, where time moves like honey through amber light and wisdom flows as naturally as mountain streams, there exists a practice so profound yet so beautifully simple that it has served as the cornerstone of Zen awakening for over 1500 years. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of evening's tranquility, let us explore together the timeless teaching of Zen, the practice of just sitting that reveals the extraordinary depths hidden within the most ordinary of human activities. The story we share tonight unfolds in the hallowed halls of a Heiji temple, nestled deep within the misty mountains of ancient Japan, where the great Zen master Dogen established one of the most revered centers of meditation practice in all the world. Here, beneath towering cedar trees that have witnessed countless seasons of awakening students from every walk of life, come to discover the profound truth that enlightenment is not something distant to be achieved, but rather the very ground of being that is always already present, waiting only to be recognized through the simple act of sitting in complete presence. Among these sincere seekers was a young monk named Myowen, whose name meant wonderful peace. Though peace seemed to elude him despite his earnest efforts and sincere dedication to the spiritual path. Myowen had come to the monastery carrying the weight of countless questions about the nature of enlightenment, burning with the desire to understand when his meditation practice would finally bear the fruit of complete awakening. Night after night, he would sit in the meditation hall, his mind churning with expectations and analysis, watching for signs of spiritual progress, measuring each session against an imagined ideal of what enlightened awareness should feel like. The meditation hall where Myowen practiced was a sanctuary of austere beauty. Polished wooden floors that reflected the soft light of oil lamps, simple cushions arranged in perfect rows and walls that seemed to breathe with the accumulated silence of generations of practitioners who had sat in this very space seeking the same timeless truth. The air itself felt sacred, thick with the essence of countless hours of devoted sitting, permeated with the fragrance of incense and the subtle energy of profound concentration. As autumn deepened and the first snows began to dust the monastery grounds, Myowen's frustration with his practice grew more intense. Despite sitting for hours each day, despite following every instruction with meticulous care, despite reading countless texts on meditation and enlightenment, he felt no closer to the profound awakening he sought. His mind continued to wander, his body ached from long periods of sitting, and doubt began to creep into his heart like frost spreading across a window pane. Finally, unable to contain his confusion and desperation any longer, Myowen approached Master Dogen during the evening Sanzen period. That sacred time when students could bring their deepest questions directly to their teacher's attention. The young monk's eyes reflected both sincere seeking and barely contained frustration as he bowed respectfully before his master and voiced the question that had been burning in his heart. "Honorable teacher, I have been practicing Zen with complete dedication for many months now. Yet I feel no different than when I began. When will this sitting practice finally lead me to enlightenment? What signs should I watch for to know that my meditation is working?" Master Dogen's response came not with the elaborate explanations or complex teachings that Myowen had expected, but with a question so simple that it cut through all the young monk's mental constructions like a sword through silk. "Tell me, when you are sitting in Zazen, who is it that sits? And when you are seeking enlightenment, who is it that seeks?" Myowen opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again, as he realized that his usual categories of understanding were suddenly inadequate to address such a fundamental inquiry. Who, indeed, was this I that sat in meditation? Who was this seeker that longed for awakening? As he contemplated these questions, something profound began to shift in his understanding. A recognition that the very one who sought enlightenment and the enlightenment that was sought might not be two separate things after all. Seeing the confusion and dawning recognition playing across his student's features, Master Dogen continued with infinite gentleness, "My dear Myoan, the mistake you are making is common among sincere practitioners. You are sitting in order to become enlightened, practicing Zazen as a means to achieve some future state of awakening. But true Zazen is not a method for attaining anything. It is the complete expression of your Buddha nature right here and now. When you sit in proper posture with wholehearted attention, you are not practicing to become a Buddha. You are already manifesting your inherent Buddha nature." This teaching struck Myoan like lightning, illuminating a dark landscape, revealing features that had always been present but were hidden by the shadows of his own expectations and desires. The Master's words pointed to a revolutionary understanding. Enlightenment was not a destination to be reached through meditation, but rather the very ground from which all true meditation arose. The sitting itself, when done with complete presence and acceptance, was already the full expression of awakened awareness. Master Dogen gestured toward the meditation hall, where other students could be seen sitting in perfect stillness, their forms silhouetted against the soft lamplight like living statues of serene contemplation. "Look at your fellow practitioners," he said softly. "In this moment of complete sitting, where is the separation between the sitter and the sitting? Where is the gap between practice and enlightenment? When the mind is not grasping for attainment, when the body is upright and relaxed, when awareness is simply present with what is. This is not preparation for enlightenment. This is enlightenment itself, manifesting through the form of sitting meditation." As these words penetrated deeply into Myoan's consciousness, he began to understand that his months of frustration had stemmed from a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of spiritual practice. He had been approaching Zazen like a business transaction, investing time and effort in meditation with the expectation of receiving enlightenment in return. But true Zazen, he now realized, operated according to entirely different principles. It was not about getting something he lacked, but about recognizing and embodying what he had never actually lost. The teaching of Shikshantaza, often translated as just sitting, emerged from this profound recognition that meditation is not a means to an end, but an end in itself. When we sit in Zazen with no agenda beyond the sitting itself, we discover that this simple act contains the fullness of enlightened activity. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, no one to become. Only this moment of complete presence, this breath, this posture, this awareness that is always already whole and perfect. Master Dogen's revolutionary understanding Heidi emerged from his own years of intensive practice and study, including a transformative journey to China, where he encountered masters who embodied this principle of goalless sitting. Upon returning to Japan, he dedicated his life to transmitting this pure teaching that meditation practice is not separate from enlightenment, but is enlightenment itself in action. Every moment of sitting with proper form and sincere attention is a complete expression of awakened awareness, lacking nothing and needing no improvement. As you contemplate this profound teaching from the comfort of your resting place, Allow yourself to feel the liberating implications of this understanding. How often do we approach various activities in our lives, including rest itself, with the feeling that we should be somewhere else achieving something more, becoming someone different? The teaching of Zazen invites us to discover the extraordinary fullness that exists within the most ordinary moments when we approach the Im with complete presence and acceptance. Consider how this wisdom applies to your preparation for sleep tonight. Instead of lying in bed, waiting for sleep to arrive, trying to force relaxation, or fighting against the natural rhythms of your body and mind, what would it be like to simply be completely present with the experience of lying down, breathing naturally, and allowing whatever arises to be exactly as it is? This is the essence of Zazen applied to rest. Not trying to achieve sleep as a goal, but fully inhabiting the process of settling into rest with wholehearted attention. The posture of Zazen itself embodies this teaching of complete presence. The spine naturally erect, yet relaxed, the hands forming the cosmic mudra with thumbs gently touching the eyes, partially open with gaze softly lowered. Every aspect of this traditional posture expresses dignity, alertness, and acceptance simultaneously. This is not the posture of someone striving to become something else, but of someone who already embodies the perfect balance of effort and ease, engagement and letting go. In the meditation hall at a haji, as in Zen monasteries around the world, practitioners continue to sit in this simple yet profound way, generation after generation, discovering the same timeless truth that Maowen encountered that evening, that the peace we seek is not hidden in some future achievement, but is available right here, right now, in the simple act of being completely present with whatever is arising in this moment. The breath that flows naturally in and out during Zazen becomes a teacher in itself, demonstrating the perfect rhythm of receiving and releasing, taking in life force and letting go of what is no longer needed. Unlike breathing practices that manipulate the breath to achieve specific states, Zazen allows the breath to find its own natural rhythm, trusting in the body's innate wisdom to breathe exactly as it needs to, without our interference or control. As Master Dogen taught, O study, the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. This forgetting of the self that occurs in deep Zazen is not a loss of identity, but rather a liberation from the artificial boundaries that separate us from the fullness of life. In moments of complete sitting, the distinction between meditator and meditation dissolves, revealing the seamless unity that was always already present. Tonight, as you prepare to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you the profound simplicity of the Zazen teaching. Let go of any agenda beyond simply being present with this moment of rest. Allow your body to find its natural position of comfort and ease. Let your breathing settle into its own rhythm without trying to control or improve it. And most importantly, rest in the recognition that this very moment of lying down to sleep is already perfect and complete. Not because you have achieved anything special, but because presence itself is the source of all peace and all awakening. The young monk Maoan, after receiving this teaching from Master Dogen, returned to his daily sitting practice with a completely transformed understanding. No longer seeking enlightenment as something separate from his practice, he discovered that each moment of sitting was itself the full flowering of Buddha nature. His meditation became not a means to an end, but an endless beginning. each breath a fresh opportunity to embody the awakened awareness that had never actually been absent. May you find in your own rest tonight this same quality of complete presence that characterizes true Zazen, not trying to achieve perfect sleep or force particular experiences, but simply being wholehearted with whatever arises in the natural process of settling into rest. In this simple presence, discover the profound peace that needs no improvement, the rest that is already complete, and the awakened awareness that expresses itself as naturally as breathing in the sacred simplicity of just being exactly as you are. Sleep deeply in the wisdom of Zazen, knowing that each moment of rest is itself a perfect expression of the enlightened nature that is your true self. In the sacred groves, where ancient wisdom takes root and flourishes like bamboo, reaching toward infinite sky, there exists a teaching so profound in its simplicity that it has the power to transform our entire relationship with reality itself. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of evening's peace, let us journey together into the timeless story of Master Joshu and the Bamboo Grove, a tale that reveals the extraordinary liberation that comes from seeing life exactly as it is, without the veils of judgment, expectation, or mental elaboration that so often obscure our natural clarity. The setting for our story is the magnificent Kanshoji Temple, nestled in a valley where bamboo groves sway in perpetual dance with mountain breezes, their leaves creating a symphony of whispered wisdom that seems to carry the teachings of generations. Here, Master Joshu, whose name has become synonymous with the most direct and uncompromising expression of Zen wisdom, guided students toward awakening through teachings that cut through complexity like sunlight piercing morning mist, revealing the simple truth that had always been present but hidden beneath layers of conceptual thinking. Master Joshu was renowned throughout the land not for elaborate philosophical discourses or complex meditation techniques, but for his ability to point directly to the heart of reality through the most ordinary interactions and observations. His teaching style embodied the very essence of Zen, immediate, practical, and completely devoid of unnecessary ornament. Students traveled from distant provinces to receive his guidance, drawn by stories of his remarkable ability to awaken understanding through simple questions and everyday encounters. On this particular spring morning, cherry blossoms painted the mountain slopes in delicate pink and white, and the air carried the fresh promise of new growth. An earnest young monk named Ijo approached Master Joshu with a question that had been troubling his mind for many weeks. Ijo was a sincere practitioner who had devoted himself wholeheartedly to study and meditation, spending countless hours poring over Buddhist texts and philosophical treatises, seeking to understand the deepest truths of existence through intellectual analysis and scholarly investigation. The young monk's question reflected the confusion that often arises when we attempt to grasp the nature of reality through conceptual thinking alone. "Master," he said, with deep reverence, bowing formally before his teacher, "I have been studying the teaching that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, that everything we perceive is merely the play of mind, illusion without substance. Yet, when I look around me, I see trees, rocks, buildings, things that appear solid and real. How can I reconcile this contradiction? Are these things real or are they illusion? What is the true nature of the world I see before me?" Master Joshu listened to this earnest inquiry with the patient compassion of someone who had heard variations of this fundamental question countless times before. He understood that Ijo's confusion arose from a common mistake made by many sincere seekers: the tendency to create false dichotomies between concepts like real and illusory, empty and substantial, when the truth transcends such dualistic categories entirely. Without saying a word initially, Master Joshu gestured for Ijo to follow him outside the meditation hall. They walked together along a stone path that wound through the temple grounds, their footsteps creating a gentle rhythm against the worn stones that had been polished smooth by generations of monks making this same journey toward understanding. The morning air was crisp and clean, filled with the so-uns of birds announcing the arrival of spring and the soft rustle of bamboo leaves moving in harmony with the mountain breeze. As they approached a particularly magnificent grove of bamboo that formed a living cathedral of green columns reaching toward the sky, Master Joshu stopped and pointed to a tall, graceful bamboo stalk that swayed gently nearby. The bamboo was perfect in its natural simplicity, straight and strong, yet flexible enough to bend with the wind, its joints marking stages of growth while maintaining structural integrity, its leaves creating patterns of light and shadow that danced across the ground below. "Tell me," Master Joshu said quietly, his voice carrying the gentle authority of someone who spoke from direct experience rather than theoretical knowledge. "What do you see when you look at this bamboo?" Ijo studied the plant carefully, his mind immediately beginning to analyze and categorize what he observed. "Master, I see a bamboo plant. Bambusa oldhami, if I'm not mistaken. It's approximately 15 feet tall, with segmented joints typical of the bamboo family. The leaves are lance-shaped and arranged alternately along the stems. From a Buddhist perspective, I understand that this apparent bamboo is actually empty of inherent existence, merely a collection of interdependent causes and conditions with no fixed essence." Master Joshu held up his hand gently, stopping the flow of analytical description with a slight smile that contained both compassion and subtle humor. "My dear Ijo," he said with infinite kindness, "bamboo is bamboo." These four simple words, "bamboo is bamboo," fell into the space between them like stones dropped into a still pond, creating ripples of understanding that would transform Ijo's entire approach to spiritual practice and daily life. At first, the young monk's mind reacted with confusion and perhaps a hint of frustration. Surely his learned teacher could offer more sophisticated guidance than such an apparently simplistic statement. Where was the profound wisdom, the complex explanation that would finally resolve his philosophical dilemma? But as Ijo stood there in the presence of both his teacher and the bamboo itself, something began to shift in his perception. The bamboo didn't need to be explained or categorized or fit into philosophical frameworks to be exactly what it was. It didn't require his understanding or approval to exist in perfect completeness. It wasn't trying to be anything other than bamboo, wasn't confused about its identity, wasn't seeking validation or improvement. It simply was, utterly itself completely present, requiring nothing additional to make it whole or real or worthy. Master Joshu's teaching pointed to the profound liberation that comes from what Zen practitioners call ordinary mind, the natural awareness that sees things exactly as they are without the overlay of conceptual elaboration judgment or the need to fit everything into mental categories. This is NOTA, special or mystical state of consciousness, but rather our most basic and natural way of perceiving when the mind is not caught up in the endless activity of analysis and comparison. The bamboo in Master Joshu's teaching represents the suchness of all phenomena, their immediate, undeniable presence that exists prior to and independent of our thoughts about them. When we see with eyes of pure awareness, a tree is simply a tree, a mountain is simply a mountain, and a person is simply a person. This seeing doesn't deny the relative truths about interdependence and emptiness that Ijo had been studying, but it recognizes that these philosophical understandings are only pointing toward the direct experience of reality as it actually manifests in each moment. As you contemplate this teaching from the comfort of your resting place, consider how often your own mind becomes caught in the web of concepts and interpretations that can obscure the simple clarity of direct experience. When you low-OK at a sunset, do you immediately think about wavelengths of light and atmospheric particles, or can you sometimes simply receive the beauty without needing to explain it? When you feel the sensation of breathing, do you analyze the process of oxygen exchange, or can you occasionally just experience the natural rhythm of inhalation and exhalation? The practice of seeing things as they are, what Buddhist teaching calls Yatha Bhuta Darsana, is both the simplest and most profound spiritual practice available to us. It requires no special knowledge, no complex techniques, no years of study. It simply asks us to momentarily set aside our habitual tendency to immediately interpret and categorize our experience, and instead to rest in the direct awareness that is always already present. In the context of preparing for sleep, this teaching offers profound guidance for releasing some of the mental activity that so often keeps us awake long after our bodies are ready for rest. Instead of lying in bed thinking about the day's events, planning tomorrow's activities, or analyzing our feelings and experiences, we can practice the bamboo teaching by simply being present with the immediate sensations of lying down, feeling our body supported, noticing the natural rhythm of our breathing, and allowing thoughts to come and go without getting caught up in their content. Master Joshu's response to Ijo demonstrates the Zen principle of direct pointing, the transmission of wisdom that bypasses conceptual understanding and awakens immediate recognition. The truth that bamboo is bamboos cannot be grasped through analysis or memorized like factual information. It can only be realized through the direct experience of seeing without the interference of mental commentary, experiencing without the need to explain or categorize. This seeing is not passive or dull, but vibrantly alive and present. When we see bamboo as bamboo, or anything as what it actually is, we are not diminishing its mystery or reducing its complexity. Rather, we are accessing a level of awareness that appreciates the full richness and depth of phenomena without needing to capture or control them through conceptual understanding. This is the awareness of a child who can spend hours watching clouds drift across the sky without needing to know their meteorological classification. The bamboo grove where this teaching was transmitted continues to grow and sway in harmony with the mountain winds, offering its silent teaching to anyone willing to receive it. Each stalk represents the perfect expression of bamboo nature. Not trying to be oak or pine, not apologizing for not being taller or straighter, simply manifesting the fullness of what it means to be bamboo in this particular time and place. As Ajo absorbed Master Joshu's teaching, he began to understand that his philosophical confusion had arisen from trying to understand reality through concepts about reality rather than through direct experience of reality itself. The bamboo wasn't a problem to be solved or a puzzle to be figured out. It was a perfect teacher demonstrating the art of simply being completely itself without apology or explanation. This recognition transformed not only Icho's meditation practice, but his entire relationship with daily life. He began to see that every moment offered the same teaching as the bamboo grove, the invitation to experience life directly rather than through the filter of mental commentary. Walking was simply walking, eating was simply eating, sitting was simply sitting. This didn't make these activities boring or mundane, but revealed their profound depth and completeness when experienced with full presence. The teaching of bamboo is bamboo also points to the Zen understanding that enlightenment is not about gaining special experiences or mystical states, but about recognizing the extraordinary nature of ordinary awareness. The consciousness with which you are receiving these very words is the same awareness that the greatest Zen masters pointed to as Buddha nature. It doesn't need to be improved or purified or developed. It only needs to be recognized and trusted. Tonight, as you prepare to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you the profound simplicity of Master Joshu's teaching. Let go of the need to analyze or understand your experience of settling into rest. Allow breathing to be simply breathing relaxation, to be simply relaxation, and drowsiness to be simply drowsiness when it arises. Trust in the natural intelligence of your body and mind to find their way into sleep without your mental management or control. In your dreams, may you discover the same freedom that the bamboo demonstrates, the liberty of being completely yourself without apology or explanation, swaying gracefully with whatever winds may blow while remaining rooted in the unshakable ground of your true nature. Rest deeply in the recognition that you like. The bamboo are already perfect and complete, exactly as you are requiring nothing additional to make you whole. Sleep well in the wisdom of simple presence, knowing that tomorrow you may awaken with eyes refreshed by the bamboo teaching, able to see the world with the clarity of direct awareness, appreciating the suchness of all things without the need to explain or change them, finding profound peace in the simple recognition that what is. In the luminous tapestry of Zen wisdom, where each thread represents a teaching that can transform the human heart, there shines a story so profound in its demonstration of spiritual maturity that it has inspired seekers for centuries. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of evening's peace, let us explore together the extraordinary tale of Master Hakuin and the baby. A teaching about maintaining perfect equanimity in the face of both blame and praise, demonstrating the unshakable inner peace that comes from resting in truth rather than reputation. The setting for our story is a small Emo-Untamed village in 18th century Japan, where traditional wooden houses with curved tile roofs nestle among terraced gardens and winding stone paths. Here, in a simple hermitage on the outskirts of the village, lived Master Hakuin Ekaku, one of the most revered Zen teachers in all of Japan. His modest dwelling was a sanctuary of simplicity. Tatami mats covering wooden floors, sliding paper screens that filtered sunlight into gentle patterns, and a small altar where incense burned continuously in offering to the Buddhist nature that pervades all existence. Master Hakuin had earned the deep respect and admiration of everyone in the surrounding area through his embodiment of the purest principles of Zen practice. Villagers would often walk considerable distances just to catch a glimpse of him during his daily routine, observing how he moved through the world with perfect mindfulness and compassion. His reputation for wisdom and moral purity had spread far beyond the local region, drawing stud-ents and seekers from distant provinces who came to learn from someone who had so completely integrated the teachings of Buddhism into every aspect of his daily life. The master's days followed a rhythm as natural and harmonious as the changing seasons. Rising before dawn for meditation, tending his small garden where he grew vegetables and herbs, receiving visitors who came seeking guidance, and spending long hours in contemplative study of the sacred texts. His presence radiated the deep peace that comes from years of dedicated practice, and his words, when he chose to speak, carried the authority of someone who had touched the deepest truths of existence through direct experience rather than mere intellectual understanding. Among the residents of the village was a prosperous merchant family who owned the largest food store in the area. Their daughter was known throughout the region for her exceptional beauty. Graceful as a willow tree, with eyes that sparkled like stars reflected in mountain streams, and a gentle manner that seemed to embody the feminine ideal of traditional Japanese culture. She was of marriageable age, and many young men from prominent families had approached her parents seeking permission to court her, yet she had shown little interest in any of the proposed matches. As spring blossomed into summer and the mountain air grew warm with the promise of abundant harvests, the merchant and his wife made a shocking discovery that would shatter their peaceful world like thunder breaking across a clear sky. Their beloved daughter was with child, and she had somehow managed to conceal her condition until it was undeniably apparent. The revelation struck the family like lightning, filling the traditionally conservative parents with a mixture of rage, shame, and desperate confusion about how such a situation could have developed under their own roof. The interrogation that followed was intense and persistent, as the distraught parents demanded to know the identity of the man who had brought this disgrace upon their family name. Their daughter, however, remained steadfastly silent, her lips sealed by some combination of fear, loyalty, and perhaps genuine confusion about how to navigate the impossible situation in which she found herself. Days passed with increasing tension and pressure as the parents alternated between pleading and threatening, desperate to extract the truth that would allow them to take appropriate action. Finally, after weeks of relentless questioning and emotional exhaustion, the young woman spoke the name that would transform this private family crisis into a public scandal of unprecedented proportions. It was Master Hakuin. She whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of her mother's sharp intake of breath. The words seemed to hang in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle, carrying implications so shocking that the parents could hardly process what they had heard. The accusation against Master Hakuin spread through the village like wildfire racing across dry grassland, transforming the peaceful community into a seething mass of gossip, outrage, and disbelief. How could their most revered spiritual teacher, the man they had looked to as an embodiment of purity and wisdom, have engaged in such hypocritical behavior? The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Their image of Hakuin as a perfect sage colliding violently with this new information that painted him as a charlatan and deceiver of the worst kind. a crowd of angry villagers, led by the girl's furious parents, marched to Hakuin's hermitage, carrying burning torches and hearts filled with righteous indignation. They surrounded his simple dwelling like a storm gathering around a solitary mountain peak, their voices raised in accusation and condemnation. The merchant father, his face flushed with anger and shame, stepped forward to confront the master directly, his words cutting through the evening air like a sword blade. "Yo, you hypocrite, you false teacher! How dare you present yourself as pure and holy while secretly engaging in such disgraceful conduct with our innocent daughter?" The crowd pressed closer, expecting defensive explanations, angry denials, or perhaps desperate pleas for understanding. They had come prepared for confrontation, armed with their righteous anger and moral superiority. But Master Hakuin's response was so completely unexpected, so utterly different from what they had anticipated, that it stopped the momentum of their collective rage like a boulder dropped into a rushing stream. Looking directly at his accusers with eyes that reflected neither fear nor anger, but rather a profound equanimity that seemed to emanate from the depths of his being, Master Hakuin simply said, "Is that so?" His voice carried no defensiveness, no protest of innocence, no attempt to justify or explain. The three words emerged from a place of such complete acceptance that they seemed to transform the very atmosphere around the confrontation, introducing a quality of spaciousness where before there had been only conflict and tension. The crowd stood momentarily stunned by this response, uncertain how to proceed in the face of such unexpected equanimity. They had come expecting a battle, but found instead a mirror that reflected their own anger without absorbing or returning it. Some began to mutter among themselves, interpreting his calm acceptance as an admission of guilt, while others felt confused by his complete lack of defensiveness or explanation. As the months passed and the young woman's pregnancy progressed toward its natural conclusion, the initial fury of the village began to settle into a cold condemnation that was perhaps even more devastating than the original outburst. Master Hakuin's reputation lay in ruins, his teachings dismissed as the words of a hypocrite, his very presence a source of embarrassment and scandal for the entire community. Students who had traveled great distances to learn from him found other teachers' supporters withdrew their offerings, and the hermitage that had once been a beacon of wisdom became a place of isolation and social exile. When the baby was finally born, a healthy girl whose innocent cries seemed to pierce the hearts of even the most hardened critics. The merchant family arrived at Hakuin's dwelling once again. This time, however, they came not with torches and accusations, but with a squirming bundle of new life that they thrust into the master's arms with bitter finality. "This child is your responsibility," the merchant declared with cold satisfaction. "Since you are the father, you must care for her. We want nothing more to do with this shameful situation." Again, Master Hakuin's response defied all expectations and conventional patterns of human reaction. Accepting the tiny infant with the same gentle equanimity he had shown when first accused, he simply repeated those same three words, "Is that so?" But now, as he addled the baby against his chest, something beautiful and transformative began to unfold. The master, who had been reviled as a charlatan, now became a devoted father, demonstrating a love and care for this child that surpassed even what her biological parents might have provided. The sight of Master Hakuin caring for the baby became one of the most touching spectacles the village had ever witnessed. Here was a man in his 70s whose life had been dedicated to meditation and spiritual practice, suddenly adapting to the demands of caring for an infant with grace and dedication that put younger parents to shame. He could be seen walking through the village streets, the baby secured to his back in traditional fashion, going from door to beg for milk and whatever other necessities the child required. The master's reputation for worldly success and social standing had been completely destroyed. Yet, his response to this dramatic change in circumstances revealed depths of character that his previous life of comfortable respect had never called forth. He fed the baby with his own hands, staying awake through long nights when she cried, washing her clothes in the mountain stream, and singing gentle lullabies that seemed to flow from some inexhaustible well of tenderness within his heart. As seasons turned and the baby grew from helpless infant to curious toddler, Master Hakuin's care never wavered. He taught her to walk by patiently holding her small hands as she took tentative steps around the hermitage. He showed her how to identify different flowers in his garden, how to listen to the songs of various birds, and how to sit quietly in meditation, though her version involved considerably more fidgeting than traditional Zen practice typically allows. Meanwhile, the burden of conscience had been growing heavier in the heart of the young woman who had falsely accused him. Day after day she watched from a distance as this elderly man devoted himself completely to caring for a child that was not his own, sacrificing his reputation, his comfort, and his previous way of life without complaint or resentment. The weight of her lie became increasingly unbearable as she witnessed the profound love and dedication with which Hakuin embraced his role as caregiver. Finally, after more than a year had passed, her conscience could bear the burden no longer. In a flood of tears and desperate remorse, she confessed the truth to her parents. The real father of the child was a young fishmonger from the market district, a man she had been seeing in secret but had been afraid to name because of his lower social status. She had chosen to implicate Master Hakuin precisely because she knew he was too wise and compassionate to defend himself aggressively, thinking that somehow the truth would never come to light. The merchant and his wife, upon learning of their daughter's deception, were overwhelmed with a mixture of relief and horror. Relief that their beloved Master Hakuin was innocent of the charges against him, but horror at the magnitude of the injustice they had perpetrated against one of the most genuinely holy people they had ever known. They rushed to his hermitage, accompanied by many of the villagers who had participated in his condemnation, all of them desperate to make amends for the terrible wrong they had done. They found Master Hakuin sitting in his garden, the little girl playing contentedly at his feet as he tended to his vegetables. When they began their profuse apologies, explaining the truth and begging his forgiveness with tears streaming down their faces, the master's response was exactly the same as it had been when they first accused him. "Is that so?" The profound equanimity contained in those three simple words revealed the extraordinary depth of Master Hakuin's spiritual realization. Whether receiving blame or praise, condemnation or apology, his inner peace remained completely unshaken. He had not been defending himself when innocent because his sense of self-worth did not depend on others' opinions. He did not feel vindicated when his innocence was proven because he had never felt guilty in the first place. He simply remained established in his true nature, responding to each moment with complete presence and appropriate action. As you contemplate this extraordinary teaching from the comfort of your resting place, consider how often your own inner peace depends on external validation and others' opinions of your character or actions. Master Hakuin's example points toward a liberation so complete that it transcends the ordinary human need for approval and fear of condemnation. This is not indifference or callousness, but rather the profound freedom that comes from being anchored in truth rather than in reputation. The teaching of "Is that so?" becomes a powerful practice for maintaining equanimity in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs. When someone praises you, "Is that so?" receiving the appreciation without attachment or pride. When someone criticizes you, "Is that so?" hearing their words without defensiveness or the need to justify yourself. This phrase cultivates the quality of mind that remains spacious and peaceful, regardless of external circumstances. Tonight, as you prepare to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you the profound serenity that Master Hakuin demonstrated throughout this entire ordeal. Release any lingering concerns about how others perceive you, any wounds from unfair treatment, any attachments to maintaining a particular image or reputation. Like Hakuin, you can rest in the unshakable peace that comes from knowing your true worth is not determined by external validation, but by the inherent dignity of your Buddha nature. May your sleep be as peaceful as Master Hakuin's heart, undisturbed by the storms of praise and blame that blow across the surface of daily life, rooted in the timeless tranquility that is your deepest truth. In the gentle twilight hours when day surrenders to night and the world enters that sacred liminal space between activity and rest, there flows a river of ancient wisdom through the heart of our story tonight. As you settle into the comfort of evening's embrace, let us journey together to the banks of a mystical river where Master Daito, a sage whose understanding flowed as deep and clear as mountain streams, taught his disciples the profound art of releasing their burdens to the eternal current of existence through the beautiful ceremony of floating lanterns. The setting for our tale unfolds along the Katsura River, where silver waters wind through landscapes painted in the soft pastels of approaching dusk. Ancient willow trees drape their graceful branches like silk curtains over the water's edge, their leaves creating gentle music as evening breezes stir them into whispered conversations with the flowing current below. Stone bridges arch gracefully across the water, their reflections creating perfect circles of moonlight on the river's surface, while traditional wooden houses with paper lantern windows line the banks like glowing jewels strung along nature's necklace. Master Daito had established his small temple community in this serene location precisely because of the river's powerful teachings about the nature of impermanence and flow. Unlike many Zen masters who focused primarily on sitting meditation within the walls of formal temples, Daito believed that nature itself was the greatest teacher, offering lessons in letting go and acceptance that could penetrate the heart more deeply than any verbal instruction. The sound of flowing water became a constant reminder of life's ceaseless movement, while the sight of objects carried downstream demonstrated the futility of clinging to what is naturally designed to pass away. On this particular evening, as autumn's first chill painted the air with hints of approaching winter and the sky deepened into shades of purple and gold, a group of Daito's most devoted students gathered on the riverbank, carrying bundles of handmade paper lanterns. These weren't ordinary decorative lanterns, but sacred vessels created through days of careful preparation, each one crafted with meditative attention and filled with the maker's most personal intentions and deepest concerns. Among the gathered students was a middle-aged woman named Keiko, whose heart carried the weight of grief over her recently deceased husband. Despite months of meditation practice and study of Buddhist teachings about impermanence, she found herself unable to release the profound sorrow that colored every aspect of her daily experience. The pain of loss had become like a stone lodged in her chest, making each breath feel labored and each day a struggle against overwhelming sadness. Beside her stood Taro, a young merchant whose mind was consumed with anxieties about his struggling business and fears about providing for his elderly parents. Despite his sincere efforts to practice mindfulness and acceptance, worry had become his constant companion, disturbing his sleep and stealing his peace like a thief in the night. His lantern contained written prayers for financial stability and relief from the crushing responsibility he felt weighing upon his shoulders. The third member of our gathering was an elderly scholar named Hayato, whose entire identity had been built around his intellectual accomplishments and scholarly reputation. Recent failures in his academic work had shattered his sense of self-worth, leaving him feeling lost and purposeless. His lantern held prayers for renewed confidence and clarity about his life's direction, though beneath these surface concerns lay a deeper questioning about the very nature of identity and achievement. As the group assembled in respectful silence along the water's edge, Master Daito emerged from the temple carrying his own lantern, a simple creation of rice paper and bamboos that seemed to glow with inner light even before being illuminated. His presence brought an immediate sense of calm to the gathering, like the arrival of still water that settles agitated sediment through its very peacefulness. The master's eyes reflected the gentle wisdom of someone who had learned to move through life like water itself, flowing around obstacles without resistance, always finding the most natural path forward. My dear friends, Master Daito began, his voice carrying the same soothing quality as the river's gentle murmur. Tonight, we gather to practice one of the most ancient and powerful ceremonies known to humanity, the ritual of release and surrender. Each lantern you carry represents not only your personal concerns and prayers, but also your willingness to trust in the greater flow of existence that carries all things toward their highest good. The master gestured toward the flowing water, where the last rays of sunlight created dancing patterns of gold and silver on the surface. This river has been flowing for countless centuries, carrying leaves and flowers, silt and stones, always moving toward the vast ocean that receives all waters without judgment or resistance. Tonight, we ask this eternal current to receive our worries and aspirations, not because we are abandoning our responsibilities, but because we are acknowledging that our efforts alone are insufficient to control the outcomes we desire. As twilight deepened and the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Master Daito lit his own lantern with a flame from the temple's sacred fire. The soft glow illuminated his weathered features, revealing the deep peace that comes from decades of practicing the very surrender he was now teaching. Before we release our lanterns to the river's care, he continued, let us first honor what each one represents. These are not mere wishes cast upon the water, but sacred offerings that acknowledge both our human limitations and our infinite capacity for trust. Keiko was the first to lig Hadhi her lantern, her hands trembling slightly as she held the flame to the small candle within. As the warm light began to glow through the rice paper walls, she whispered a prayer of gratitude for the love she had shared with her husband, followed by a humble request for strength to carry his memory forward without being overwhelmed by grief. The lantern seemed to pulse gently in her hands, as if responding to the sincerity of her intentions. Taro followed his lantern bearing simple calligraphy that spelled out his hopes for his family's well-being and his business's success. But as he lit the candle within, he found himself speaking different words than he had planned. Not requests for specific outcomes, but expressions of gratitude for the opportunity to care for his parents and serve his community, regardless of the material results of his efforts. Elderly Hayato approached the ceremony with characteristic thoughtfulness, having spent considerable time composing elegant poetry to Plati within his lantern. But as the moment of lighting arrived, he found that his carefully crafted words seemed less important than the simple desire they represented. The longing to be useful and valued, to contribute something meaningful to the world before his time ended. Master Dato observed each student's preparation with gentle attention, recognizing in their faces the universal human experiences of hope and fear, attachment, and the desire for release. When all the lanterns glowed softly in the gathering darkness, he offered a teaching that would transform their understanding of what they were about to do. The water that will carry our lanterns tonight is the same water that has carried countless offerings throughout history. He explained, his voice becoming one with the sound of the flowing current. It does not judge the prayers it receives or guarantee specific answers to our requests. Instead, it offers something far more precious: the demonstration of perfect acceptance and continuous movement forward. When we place our lanterns in this river, we are not merely hoping for external changes, but practicing the internal transformation that comes from aligning ourselves with the natural flow of existence. The ceremony of releasing the lanterns began with Master Daito stepping into the shallow water at the river's edge, his robes flowing around his legs as he bent to place his glowing offering gently onto the current. The lantern bobbed for a moment, finding its balance on the water's surface, then began its journey downstream, carrying with it whatever intentions the master had placed within its fragile walls. One by one, the students followed their teacher's example, wading into the cool water and releasing their luminous vessels to the river's care. Each lantern became a floating prayer, a point of warm light moving slowly through the darkness, creating a procession of hopes and dreams surrendered to forces greater than individual will. As they stood together on the bank watching their lanterns drift downstream, something profound shifted in the atmosphere of the gathering. The act of physical release seemed to create a corresponding release in their hearts. Not an abandonment of caring, but a transformation of the quality of their caring from anxious attachment to loving trust. The practice of floating lanterns on water has ancient roots in many spiritual traditions, representing humanity's deep intuitive understanding that holding too tightly to our desires and fears creates suffering, while learning to trust in larger rhythms brings peace. Tonight, as you prepare to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you this ancient wisdom of release and flow, allowing your own concerns to drift downstream like those glowing lanterns carried by the natural current of existence toward resolution and peace. May your sleep be as peaceful as that riverbank gathering, and may you awaken refreshed by the knowledge that you are held and guided by the same eternal flow that carries all beings toward their ultimate freedom. As our journey through these sacred Zen legends draws to its gentle close, we find ourselves like travelers who have wandered through an ancient garden of wisdom, pausing at each flowering tree to receive its unique gift of understanding. Tonight, dear friend, you have walked alongside the greatest masters of the Zen tradition, witnessing their profound teachings unfold through simple stories that carry the power to transform hearts and awaken the deepest peace within the human soul. From the silent transmission of the flower sermon, where the Buddha's wordless teaching revealed that the most profound truths transcend language, to the mysterious sound of one hand clapping that invited us beyond the boundaries of ordinary thinking, each story has offered its own doorway into the vast spaciousness of awakened awareness. We have sat with Master Ikkyu as he demonstrated the sacred art of letting go through his broken cup, earned the pure simplicity of just sitting from the Zazen masters, and discovered with Master Joshu that bamboo is simply bamboo, perfect and complete, exactly as it is. Through Master Hakuin's unshakable equanimity in the face of both blame and praise, we glimpsed the profound freedom that comes from resting in truth rather than reputation. The floating lanterns on the sacred river taught us the beautiful practice of releasing our worries to the eternal flow of existence, trusting that what we surrender with love will find its way to perfect resolution in the great ocean of being. Each of these timeless teachings points to the same essential recognition that peace is not something we must create or achieve, but rather our natural state when the artificial barriers created by mental activity dissolve into the simplicity of pure presence. The wisdom of these ancient masters continues to live and breathe through every telling of their stories, like seeds of awakening planted in the fertile ground of receptive hearts. As you prepare now to enter the realm of sleep, carry with you not the complexity of philosophical understanding, but the simple recognition that you are already whole, already at peace, already blessed with the same Buddha nature that these great teachers embodied and expressed. The very awareness with which you have received these stories is itself the enlightened consciousness they pointed toward, not something separate from you, but the very essence of who you are. Let your breathing become like the gentle rhythm of temple bells, marking each moment with presence and gratitude. Allow your body to settle into rest with the same natural ease that water finds its level, requiring no effort or forcing, simply following the wisdom of gravity and surrender. Feel your thoughts beginning to quiet like ripples on a pond after the wind has ceased, leaving behind only the mirror-like clarity of pure awareness. In your dreams tonight, may you walk again through temple gardens where cherry blossoms fall like snow, their beauty enhanced rather than diminished by their temporary nature. May you sit in meditation halls where silence speaks more eloquently than words, and where the sound of one hand clapping reveals itself as the soundless sound of your own awakened heart recognizing itself. These Zen masters who have shared their wisdom with us tonight did not live in some distant mystical realm removed from ordinary human experience. They ate when hungry, slept when tired, and faced the same challenges and uncertainties that we encounter in our daily lives. What made them extraordinary was not their circumstances, but their unwavering commitment to seeing through the illusions that cause suffering and resting in the timeless peace that is always available in the depths of present moment awareness. As you drift toward sleep, remember that you are part of an unbroken lineage of awakening that stretches back through countless generations of seekers. Ho have discovered this same essential truth. The peace you touch in moments of deep rest is the same peace that filled the hearts of these ancient masters. The awareness in which your dreams arise and dissolve is the same consciousness in which all phenomena appear and disappear. Tomorrow, when you awaken refreshed and renewed, you will carry within you the seeds of wisdom planted by tonight's journey through these sacred stories. In moments of stress or uncertainty, you might remember the Buddha's gentle smile as he held up a single flower, or Master Hakuin's serene "Is that so?" in the face of life's unexpected challenges. These teachings will continue to unfold their meanings throughout your days like lotus blossoms opening slowly to reveal their hidden beauty. The river that carried the floating lanterns continues to flow, just as the wisdom of these teachings continues to move through the world, touching hearts and awakening peace wherever it is received with openness and gratitude. You are now part of this eternal current, a living expression of the same timeless truth that these masters discovered and shared so generously with all beings. Rest now in the profound silence that underlies all these stories, the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away like clouds drifting across an infinite sky. Let yourself be held by the same compassionate presence that guided these ancient teachers, knowing that you are precious exactly as you are lacking nothing essential for perfect peace and complete awakening. May your sleep be as deep as mountain lakes, as peaceful as temple gardens at dawn, and as refreshing as mountain springs flowing from the source of all wisdom. May you awaken tomorrow with the gentle smile of recognition that connects you to all awakened beings throughout time, carrying forward the precious gift of Zen wisdom into whatever circumstances await you. Sleep well, dear friend, in the eternal embrace of this timeless peace. The stories end, but the wisdom they contain is deathless, living forever in the awakened heart that recognizes its own true nature. Rest now in that recognition and let the profound serenity of the Zen masters be your gentle companion through the night and into the dawning of each new day. In the garden of awakened awareness, every season is spring, every moment is perfect, and every breath is a fresh opportunity to touch the peace that surpasses all understanding. This is your inheritance as a seeker of truth, your birthright as a being capable of awakening your eternal home in the heart of timeless wisdom. Sweet dreams, and may the Buddha nature that is your deepest self illuminate your rest with the golden light of perfect peace.